Okay, and we are back. And this specific tutorial is going to be, or the lesson is going to be about making the head for the character, for the puppet design. While my hands are kind of curing, I want to point out here I have, this is a little soft here, and while it's soft, I can actually pour some rubbing alcohol. This is rubbing alcohol, FYI. And I can smooth out any kind of imperfections in the epoxy. And that's the property of epoxy, is that rubbing alcohol will allow you to do that type of thing. Okay. I've also switched the sides of the hands. So that's just one of the things to point out. The other thing to point out here is I've kind of made my hand a little funky. There we go. Another thing to point out here is that you kind of need something to attach the epoxy to, meaning I have the wires here, and these wires specifically are interesting in the fact that they have no curve to them. There's nothing to prevent the head of the epoxy sculpt that I'm going to make come right off. Honestly, you want to be able to place the head on here and have it stay if it's a background character, or if it's a one-off, meaning you're just going to make it and you're just going to animate maybe 10 seconds at the most, maybe 20 seconds. I don't know. It depends on what you're doing. And then the puppet's going to go sit on the shelf. You can get maybe a minute of animation out of the character depending on what you're doing. You can get more if it's just the dialogue and it's just talking. But for the most part, we want to be able to make a puppet that has a fixed head to the base of the neck. And we also want to consider in the future, if you wanted to make a replaceable head, you'd stick like a tube on here and then stick a tube inside the epoxy and be able to make it come on and off. But for the most part, we're just going to start with this. It's going to be a fixed one. So if I stick the epoxy putty on here, it's not going to stick. That's what I'm trying to say. To prevent that, I'm actually going to curve this forward. I'm going to go like this and bend it forward. You see, making a kind of a loop in a word, in a sense. I'm going to bend it down like this. Okay, and that is fine. I don't need to really be perfect with everything. But that is enough to keep the epoxy onto the subject matter. You'll see this is actually kind of in the center of the head of this specific template. Something to be aware of also is as I bend these arms, these wires come apart. Not going to happen. Whoops, not going to happen once I start using the epoxy. Okay, so here's the fun thing about epoxy. It starts curing, like once you start mixing, it starts curing. You have maybe 5 minutes to work with it. I'm going to go get it says sculpting tools, and the sculpting tools are going to help me with the process. At the same time, I'm going to need to keep an eye on the epoxy and be aware of what's going on. Now I'm going to select a tool that I don't normally use, and it sounds a little funny to be doing that with sculpting tools because you should be using ones that you always use, but honestly I have this set of sculpting tools, and for me personally, this one is one of my favorites. This is with the paddle and with a little stabber. I'm probably going to use that. And then oops, a little hair on there. And then this is actually the closest thing to my favorite because it has a pointy end and a little piece there, a little paddle at the end. I'll pull that out just because. And then maybe I will do one more tool just in case. I'm not really seeing anything that I really want to use. Maybe this one. Just for a little stabbiness. Okay. Put my thing to the side. Put my sculpting tools away. And then now let's get started. So first things first, make sure you have rubbing alcohol in a cup so that way you can use it to clean your tools. I don't have paper towel on me. I should probably have a paper towel, but I'm going to do this fast and then I'll clean the tools afterwards. If you get your tools all gunked up and you end up basically getting residue on them, you can clean them up really fast, but if it dries, you have to use like a sandpaper, a really high grade sandpaper to get it off. So just so you're aware. All right. Let's start doing this. And Mixing my putties together. It's about good for a head. Now, a couple things to think about here. I am not going to put a mouth for opening and closing. I'm actually going to use a sticker mouth for this specific character, even if I don't even use a mouth. Basically, it's just the option. I'll put a sticker there. The other thing is with the eyeballs, I will probably do just a flat surface and then put clay for the pupils for the eyeballs and clay for the blink, so I don't really have to worry about that. Hair, I haven't even thought about that, honestly. I'm just going to put the character together, see what I come up with. He will probably be something like a mime or a clown, I'm guessing. Okay, so I got those two pieces. I'm going to push them together, and then I'm going to basically, like Play-Doh, I'm going to sculpt the crap out of this sucker really fast. My fingers are starting to stick, so I'm going to use a little rubbing alcohol and put that on there. All right, make sure I have enough neck, and also make sure I have enough. You have to sculpt super fast, so kind of forgive me if I stop talking at some point because I'll be focusing here. But I want to basically get a base out of this character's, and I might actually go a little bit crazy and get this sucker, give him another layer of clay, or not clay, but epoxy. If you hear baby crying, that is my little son Esteban. He's in the background doing his thing. Showed him Popeye the Sailor Man today. He was a little scared. He's only 2 months old. Okay, so there we go. He's going to need a bigger head, I think. And I'm not going to sculpt just yet. I'll leave him off to the side a little bit so the epoxy doesn't. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to let this sit and dry. Get a little stiffer. And then I'm going to sculpt because I'm seeing that I'm going to need to bulk him up a little bit more. And we'll just use this as a base. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start poking divots in here because I want the next level of epoxy to stick. All right, and I don't want it to not stick properly. So just like we did where make sure I get enough neck out of this character. Okay. There we go. And that should be good for right now. Okay. Make sure it's nice and shaped nice. Make him into a potato head here real quick. All right, I'm gonna freeze the video. Well, no, maybe I won't freeze the video. Maybe I'll start working on the feet. No, I got to do that in a separate tutorial so that way you understand what's going on. All right, anyway, I'll let this sit. I'll come back to it. Hold on 1 second while I freeze the video, and you won't even notice the difference. Hold on. Okay, so I've let this set quite a bit. It's rock hard now, and now I'm going to actually sculpt this. I have a piece of paper towel to deal with any cleanup that I need to deal with, and we can move forward. Something to point out. The tool is dirty, rubbing alcohol, a little rubbing right there, and it's getting clean. All right, so just to point that out there, even though it's kind of set in there, it's not permanent yet. And look, it's clean. I don't even know you can see that in the camera. I'm just gonna clean up my tools. I have some wax-based clay on them, so make sure that that's not on there when I'm doing my work. And yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so let's start. I'm going to do some more epoxy here. And I'm not going to do as much as I did before, because this is just going to be a layer on top of this specific doodad guy. I think I'm going to try to just go for a mime, you know, something stupid. All right. And mimes are actually fun because if you're going to practice performance, they're great for the sheer fact that they don't speak. All they do is they just hold their expression while they're doing their movement, and then they can shift their expression to something else and then do the movement. It's really just about movement and body language. Okay, so got that. I'm going to build. Now, the human head kind of sits at a weird, funky angle, and we'll deal with that first. So, putting that on there, and yeah, that there. And I'm just gonna, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do this in layers. It's kind of what you do with milliput. I mentioned that before. Milliput in the written part of the instructional videos. So milliput is a epoxy putty that has a longer time than Propoxy, and it allows you to do a lot more interesting things. Do some rubbing alcohol on my tool, and we'll smooth him out this way. There we go. Try to keep my hands off the sculpt because that is no bueno. Okay. There we go. I'm breaking my rule there. And okay. Give him a little like that. And we gotta move fast here. He's already kind of setting up because it's counteracting with the other stuff. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually go in here like this. And I'm going to try to get so that area where the eyes are going to be. So that way I can judge my nose. Maybe he'll be an alien. I don't know. It's one of those things where you just play, and you get it to where you like it. Give him some big eyes. This is where I love this tool. Actually, this one, because it's easier to work with. There we go. You don't have to do this method for building up the head. You can do this with a different item, a different type of material, and you should be fine. And then mold and cast in plastic. That's actually what I prefer to do. It's my common go-to. Okay, and then we're going to give him an area for his nose. He ends up looking like an alien at the very beginning stages. I just point that out to you. Okay. And then more putty. Give him a nose, give him some eyeballs, because you have to have spheres for the eyes, and then we'll build up his chin a little bit. Hopefully we can smooth it into the other material as it's curing. And then maybe give him just a hat, or I might just do a clay hat. I haven't decided yet. He needs ears for sure. Okay, so first things first is give him a nose, and boom, he has a nose. And actually what I want to do here is, oh no, it's stuck. It's perfect. One of the problems with clay, not necessarily epoxy, is that you need to make some kind of lines to make sure that it sticks. Otherwise, you get stuck with a sculpt that won't actually stick. So I'm going to do this, give him more of a mouth. There we go. See. Oops, wrong side. Here we go, this way. Sculpt into there. The back side, Backsides are always important. All right, he's got a little mouth there. Oh, and one last thing I probably should point out is you can sand this epoxy. So if you don't like how smooth it is and you want to make it smoother, feel free to sand it. You should be more than ready to clean this sucker up. You can also drill it, do lots of different things in that regard. So don't be afraid. Just remember that you can do this. And I suggest that you don't sculpt on the armature. I'm doing it because it's what I'm crazy. Well, because I have the experience doing it, and I'm not really afraid of it. I would practice first before you actually, and pick out a design before you actually go in there and start doing anything. It's vital, so that way if you do mess up, you're not married to it. Okay. Because this is more of like a clown type of character, I can actually do a lot of baking in the expression. Fingers here. Let's do this. There we go. Pull this down here. And you've probably gotten wise that these instructional videos get long, and that's because I'm walking you through the process. Whoops, I messed up his little jaw there. Good thing I have epoxy, rubbing alcohol on my hands. There we go. There we go there. Yep. Okay. And also, I'm going to show you some different designs. In the images would be a whole text area that I'll talk about the different types of armatures that use this, or different types of puppets that use this kind of armature. So that way you have an understanding. All right, there we go. Get this down there so we can cover those bad spots. That's a little bit of my fingers. Okay. He's starting to... There we go. We have my little clown-like character. Let's bring this down here a little bit more. There we go. And we go under. I'm going to let that dry because I want to keep that. Gonna pause the video. Well, no, actually, I'm gonna do some ears. Let's do some ears real quick, and stare at him for a minute. All right. The other thing to point out is the body can be covered in lots of different materials. So that's another thing. This armature is very versatile for using in lots of different ways. Blah blah blah. You get the point. Okay. Ears are going to be just very simple. I'm just going to do a little loop, a little thing. Okay. I got the first ear here. Stick that on there. Ears usually around that section. And the next one. That over here. Boop. All right. And the trick here is to bring it into the face. So I'm going to just squish. Remember, he's a clown, so he can have some big ears here. If I don't like it, I can always pull it off before it hardens. But I'm liking it. Lost a little of it. That's made too much rubbing alcohol. Oh, his ear got smashed because the clay or the epoxy's a little bit wet. So just pull that out like that. He doesn't have to be perfect, but he does have to be entertaining. So I do that. Scrapage. Scrapage. Okay. Oops. Make sure I'm not destroying him as I'm working with him. Yeah, and he's got some big ears. Do a little curl there. And you can also, what's interesting about this type of thing is cartoon ears sometimes will have like a little thing like that, and then a little divot in the inside. I'm not gonna do that, but they sometimes will have that. So okay, push this up a little bit like this. So we get more in there, more balance. Trying to round out this ear. There we go. And I'll squeeze it in a little bit. Like that, yeah. There we go. There we go. All right. All right, so he is pretty close to what I want. And I'm pretty happy with what I have here. Maybe fix the ear a little bit down there so it matches the other side. It's funny, this one turned out perfect at first, and then I killed the design and went for something else. So I need to fix the jaw there. All right, so hopefully you can see what's going on here. So I will actually increase the light of this session so we can actually see a little bit more of what's going on here. Let's see. There we go. And should hopefully be able to see what's going on. There we go. So I've added a bunch of features. I'm going to clean up this area back here. Next, maybe I tweak his ear a little bit. Pull that out like that. There we go. Yeah, he's a cutie. He's a cutie. I'm putting it on the edge there. You can't really tell what I'm doing, but that's actually what I'm doing back there. If you're wondering why he goes off screen a little bit, so that way he doesn't get stuck to the table. Oops. It's maybe too hard of a epoxy right now. Let's do what I'm trying to do. It worked. And honestly, Milliput is by far a better choice, but because of what we're doing here, trying to keep the cost down for you in the designs for puppet building, just in case you are in an area where you can't really afford to be building super expensive puppets. Okay. All right. probably smooth this out here with a little extra clay. Whoops, here. Okay, yeah, he needs a little love there in the eyeball because it's just too. How do you say, crazy. And his ear is very big on one side. It's okay. Symmetry is not necessary in a lot of places, a lot of ways. Okay, let's see if I can smooth this eyeball out a little bit more. Adding a little bit of putty. There we go. And put my finger in there. Okay, great. I'm going to let him sit for a while he dries, and then we're going to add some body to him. He's actually going to have his hands attached, and then we're going to do his feet, and then from there we will wrap him in a wrap. Which is one of the many options you can use for making puppets. His head is probably not the best to scale, but we'll see once we get to that point. Yeah, so for now, let's let him sit and relax against, actually I'll put him against a tool so he can actually be bottom heavy. Here, oops. Maybe I can bend his body this way and make it last better. There we go, much better. And then I will clean up and so I'll stop the video. I'll clean up my tools because you need to clean them up while they're still soft with epoxy on them, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, I'll stop the video and please go to the next video in the series.